Hi everyone, I'm Michael Bat Goblin Games, here to show you a bit of how combat works in Ages of Conflict. Now before we really dive into combat, we're going to do a quick overview of the task resolution or core mechanic we use in Ages of Conflict. We do have an entirely separate video on that subject. If you haven't reviewed it, I would recommend doing so either now or after this. But anyway, the basic mechanic is a D10 dice pool versus a target number. So every task you attempt in the game is resolved by rolling a group of D10s. The more D10s you're rolling, the better your odds of achieving success. And that also means the better your unit is at whatever task they're handling, okay? So for context purposes, let's say we have an average unit of warriors here. They're usually going to roll, say, 3d10. Lesser trained troops, maybe Levy, they might only roll 2d10, whereas, say, elite troops, knights, what have you, they may roll 4d10 just to represent better training. And say if you're dealing in a fantasy game, you might have a big dragon in there. They might roll 6 or 8 d10. So the more d10s you're rolling, the better your chances of success. All of these rolls are against a target number. You are trying to roll equal to or more than that target number. So the higher the target number, the more difficult the task. If you achieve the target number, then your attack is a success. If you do not achieve the target number, then the attack is a failure. Now, outside of combat, you typically only need one success. However, in combat, more successes is better. And while outside of combat, most target numbers are a 6, inside combat, the target number varies depending upon how well protected your enemy is. So basically, just the better your opponent's defense, the higher that target number. So a unit with no armor can have a target number as low as 2, while a heavily armored cataphract can have a target number of maybe 9 or 10. Now, one thing to point out real quick, large say monsters like this dragon, they aren't necessarily more difficult to hit. So this dragon might have a defense of 3 or 4, so not difficult to hit. I mean, if I'm rolling 3 dice and I only need 4 more, I'm almost certainly going to get at least 1 success out of that. So while they're not necessarily more difficult to hit, they are more difficult to damage, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. All right, so let's move on to an example here. So I'm going to move this dragon out of here, and I'm actually going to get rid of this cavalry. We're going to use these Infantry Warriors, and they're basically like your typical, say, early Middle Ages, Dark Ages type warriors. So they're equipped with basic hand weapons, shields, and some armor. We're going to put them up against some fantasy trolls here. So these are the two units we have locked in hand combat. First thing to keep in mind here is that combat is on a company by company basis. So each company in these units, and we have 3 companies in each of these units, they attack separately. So a hand attack or just an attack period is not made. It's not one roll for the entire unit or battalion. Every company within that unit makes an individual attack. So we're going to walk through a few examples just so we can understand the attack sequence and the defense sequence. All right, so I'm going to put this little dice tray over here. That way, the dice don't escape us. So the infantry here, we'll say the human warriors. Actually, they're Saxons. We'll go ahead and call them Saxons. They're going to roll 3 dice when they attack. So that represents the average attack in the game. Most units are going to use 3 dice when attacking. We're going to say the trolls are maybe a little better trained. So they're going to have 4 dice when they attack. Now, the Saxons, we're going to give them better armor. So their defense is higher. So when the trolls are rolling to attack, they're going to need to roll 7s to hit those Saxons. Whereas the trolls, we're going to say that they're not as well armored. So we're going to say the Saxons only need a 4 to hit them. Okay. So let's go through a few attacks. Hand combat is simultaneous. So when we do a round of hand combat, even if, say, this unit is removed as a casualty, if they haven't attacked this round yet, or this turn, I don't take them off the table. I just kind of move them back a little bit. That way I remember they still get to attack. So just keep in mind that hand combat is considered simultaneous. So it doesn't really matter which one goes first, since that's the case. We'll just start with the Saxons. So remember, they're rolling 3 dice. Their target number is a 4. So every roll that's a 4 or more is a success or a successful hit. So we'll roll the dice, and I have a 2, and an 8. So I need 4 or more. So that means one of those is a successful hit. Now the trolls must now make what we call a casualty check. A casualty check is it's a command check. So for most units, this is going to be 2d10. The target number the trolls need is a 5 plus the number of successful attacks inflicted by the Saxons. So since the Saxons had 1 successful attack, that means the trolls, their target number right here is a 6. So remember, this is just this company attacking this company. So I'm going to roll, and I need 6 or more. That was a success. I rolled a 9 and a 10. So basically, that's a casualty check, or that means since the trolls passed that check, the Saxons' attack was nullified. So we still have 2 more companies of Saxons, though, so let's go ahead and do those. I rolled a 1, a 3, and a 10. I'm going to come back to that 10. For right now, we're just going to treat it as a normal hit, but it does have some special properties that I'm going to come back to in a few moments, okay? So again, I need to do 4s. I only have 1 roll above a 4. So again, my casualty check is a 6, number 5, plus the number of successful attacks. I got that because I got a 7, so I only needed 1 of those. The third company of Saxons attacks. This time we have 2 successes. I rolled a 1, a 5, and a 10. So now the target number is a 7. And I passed, so I got a 7. So that's it for the Saxons. So now the trolls are going to attack. Now remember that the Saxons are better armored, so the trolls need 7s to hit. I only got 1 out of that. That means my command check is a 6. I passed with an 8 and a 9. The next company attacks. We have 2 successes that time. I have an 8 and a 10 in there. So my target number is a 7. I passed. I can't roll this well during a game. I kind of need a failure here, and I can't really get it. Let's do that one. 2 more successes. A 9 and a 10. So my target number again is a 7. Oh, look, finally got a failure here. So my target number is a 7. I rolled a 2 and a 6. So what that means is the Saxons are inflicted with what we call a breakpoint. A breakpoint represents several factors in the game. It represents say a loss of morale. It represents fatigue, stress, some injuries, all the factors that really come into play when we're dealing with combat. So this company, they failed their casualty check. That means the Saxon unit receives 1 breakpoint. Now that breakpoint doesn't belong to that company that failed. It belongs to the entire unit. Okay. A unit can only sustain so many breakpoints. The number of breakpoints they can sustain is equal to their presence. So if you're not familiar with presence, that's an attribute. I recommend we do have an entirely separate video that talks about units along with the attributes. Though for purposes here, just understand that this unit has a presence of 3. If this unit has more breakpoints than their presence, then they basically went over their breakpoint value, okay? At that point, the unit is either going to fall back, so like a controlled retreat, or they may just rout from the field altogether. So for right now, it's not hurting the unit. This breakpoint isn't hurting the unit. It's just it's a way to see that this unit is gradually sustaining, again, injuries, loss of morale, stress, fatigue, all those things. This is just a gradual accumulation of those. We'll go through one more quick round of combat just to reinforce some of the stuff. So again, we'll go back to the Saxons. So they'll start, and I need 4s. And there's 3 successes that time. So with 3 successes, their target number for their casualty check is an 8. 5 plus the number of successes. I passed. They have a 9 in there. Next one, 2 successes. They actually failed. Those trolls failed that one. So that unit, they're going to receive a break token there. And the last company attacks, again, we got 2 more successes. And they passed that one. So we'll go back to the trolls now. I need 7s. I got 2 10s out of that. Again, 10s do mean something special. We'll go back to that after I do this kind of the basics of combat here. That's a success. So I needed a 7 and I have an 8. The second company attacks. I have 1 7, so that's 1 success. So my target number is a 6. They fail. So they're going to get another breakpoint here. And the last company of trolls attacks. 1 success with a 7. And I got double 10s. So past that. Okay. So that's sort of the basics of how we handle combat. One company makes an attack. If there's any successes, then the company that was attacked is obligated to make a casualty check. So now that we've kind of established the basics of combat, and really we just kind of used hand combat as an example there, ranged combat really works the same way, mechanic-wise. So let me just move some of this stuff out of the way. There's a couple other factors involved with ranged combat. First is you must verify that your target is within range, and if that target is receiving any sort of defensive bonuses due to cover. Maybe they're behind a wall or in some trees or behind, like in a forest or what have you. So a ranged attack really occurs anytime the units are not in base-to-base contact. Okay, so if the units are in base-to-base contact, you're dealing with a hand attack. If they're separated like this, you're dealing with a range attack. Now, ranged weapons, when we say ranged weapons, what we're really talking about are like bows, slings, thrown weapons, muskets, anything like that. So let's kind of go back to the Saxons and the trolls, and we're going to say that for whatever reason the trolls are armed with muskets. So the first thing they have to do is to see if the Saxons are within range. We do allow a pre-measuring. So they can always check to see if their opponent is within range before declaring them as their target. So we measure, and again, it's on a company by company basis, and we're measuring basically from closest point on the base to the closest point on a base. So we'll just say this one is targeting that one. They measure, they see that, let's see, looks like they're about 9 centimeters away. So the range of a musket is 15 centimeters. So since they're at 9, they can be targeted. If we were to move them back, and now they are, it looks like 16 centimeters away, now they cannot be targeted. They're just out of range. So that's really the big difference. Hand combat and range combat. Range combat, just make sure you're within range. Make sure you can see your target. If there's a forest here, and we say maybe that forest prohibits line of sight, then you can't target them. If your target is behind, say, like a low brick wall, then your opponent's going to get some kind of defensive bonus. All right, so as I was going through the hand combat example, I did mention that there's some important aspects that are involved anytime you roll a 10 in the game, and there's also another aspect too. So what I want to talk about now, what we call kill numbers and criticals. So all weapons have an associated kill number associated with them. Just to kind of give you a few examples, a warbow has a kill number of 1. Hand weapons, or I should say most hand weapons have a kill number of 2. Cannons have a kill number of 4. So basically, the more lethal the weapon, the higher the kill number. Now, if a company fails a casualty check and any of the dice that are rolled are equal to or lower than the weapon's kill number, then the company is removed as a casualty. So let's just kind of go back to a quick example here. Let's just say that these trolls are making a command check, or sorry, they're making a casualty check against these Saxons. Now we're in hand combat, so we have hand weapons, so the kill number is a 2. So let's just say that the trolls here rolled a 2 and a 5, and they needed a 7. So that's a failure. That's a failed casualty check. However, that 2 is also equal to or lower than the kill number of the Saxons there. So in that case, the trolls don't receive a breakpoint. Instead, this company is removed from the game completely as a casualty. Now remember, if they haven't attacked yet this turn, just kind of slide them back a little bit. That way you remember to still attack with them. Because again, hand combat is simultaneous. Now the other thing I want to talk about though are the criticals. So a critical occurs anytime you're attacking and you roll at least 1 10. So again, we'll go back to our Saxons and trolls. Let's say the trolls attacked, and actually we have one here. I roll a 2, a 6, a 6, and 10. Now my target number was a 7. So that's 3 that did not succeed, but I do have 1 success here in a 10. That 10 is a critical. That inflicts an automatic breakpoint on those Saxons. Regardless of the outcome of the casualty check, they automatically receive 1 breakpoint. And then they still must go make the Saxons must still make their casualty check. And if let's say they failed, we'll just do a normal failure there, they receive another breakpoint. So you can see that through the process of criticals and just failing casualty checks, those breakpoints can add up very quickly. All right, I do want to circle back around to breakpoints just to kind of wrap this up. So I did mention that the number of breakpoints a unit can sustain is equal to its presence. So this unit has a presence of 3. That means they can sustain up to 3 breakpoints, and it's not going to affect them. Once they get to 4, now they have some issues they have to deal with. So the way this works is in the end phase, all units that have breakpoints they can make an attempt to remove them. This is basically like a rally mechanic. It's the unit's leader saying either are they boosting morale, maybe some of the soldiers who were in the front lines and were getting fatigued or stressed out, maybe they get rotated to the back, any number of factors, but really this is just the chance for you to get rid of some of these breakpoints. So that's just a command check. So we're going to roll. Unlike most other command checks, more successes is better here. Every success it allows me to remove 1 breakpoint. Again, a success is a 6 or more. So I'm going to roll, and I rolled a 6 and a 3. Again, my target number is a 6. That means I could remove 1 of these breakpoints. So since I'm now back down to 3, that unit, I think using the phrase okay is probably not great because they're still in danger here. But they're not immediately in danger, as in they're not going to immediately just fall back or rout. Now, let's say I failed that check. Okay, let's say I roll a 2 and a 3. So they still have 4 breakpoints. They're still above their breakpoint value. So what this means is that this company is now on the verge of quitting the battle. So you give them a chance to rally. If you don't rally, or you don't remove any of those breakpoints, and they're still above their breakpoint value, now you make another command check. So we'll roll. Again, I only need a 6, okay? In this case, I rolled a 3 and a 5, so that's a failure. When you make this check, one of two things are going to happen. If you pass, the unit falls back, sort of like a controlled retreat. If you fail, like I did in this situation, the unit, they rout. So you just pick the entire unit up and they are taken off the field altogether. So you really want to keep track of these breakpoints. If you have a unit that is, let's say they were moving up into combat and they were just getting hammered by this hail of arrows and accumulating these breakpoints, as the controlling player here, as the general, whatever, I need to make a decision. Do I keep moving them forward, or do I just go ahead and voluntarily move them back to give me a chance to get rid of some of these breakpoints? Because if I don't, then there's a decent chance they're going to either fall back on their own at best, or they're just going to rout from the field. So keep in mind, as your units are accumulating these breakpoints, you need to make a decision as to what you're going to do with them. Well, that covers the basics of combat in Ages of Conflict. I hope you enjoyed the video. We have several other videos, how-to gameplay videos you can check out. You can also find us on Facebook if you have any kind of questions or suggestions or comments. Thank you.